Hello, friends. It's been a while, and things have changed. A lot has happened since my last video, and you might notice that video is no longer here. In fact, I've made the decision to purge my channel of pretty much all of my videos. I left only that tutorial that I made for SRPG Studio, which I will likely remake and re-release at some point in order to delete any remnants of things better left in my past. But that's a tale for later in this video. As to everything else, well, I guess it's story time. Let me take you back to 2019. I don't really feel like discussing it in extreme detail, but in the fall of 2019, my stepfather and my grandmother were both diagnosed with very serious health problems. My stepfather was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and my grandmother was diagnosed with cancer. I knew they were going to need some support, and so I made the decision to put my life mostly on hold, and I tried to do some streaming in between helping them, and that just, my heart wasn't all the way in it. And once I realized my heart wasn't in it anymore and that I was too worried about things in the background, I just stopped. In 2020, my grandmother lost her life. She lived to a wonderful 80 years old, and for the record, she beat cancer. But her age caught up with her. That left me with my stepdad, and his Parkinson's started to get worse and worse. I did what I had to do to continue to take care of him until earlier this year, and we'll get back to that in a moment. I had made multiple attempts to come back prior to this, but life's got a funny way of saying, you could do that, but what if I said, no way, Jose? And I was stuck. As I'm starting to get some more of my confidence back and push myself back to starting towards the idea of streaming again, it came to December of 2024, the 20th anniversary of my birth father's passing. I paid a visit to my now former family's ancestral home, and we'll circle back to that in a moment. And now, I've always kept one very strict boundary with my family, and that is to not push religion onto me. Unfortunately, there are members of my family who do not believe that such boundaries should exist and continued to do so. Despite my protests, she continued to push, along with significant political leanings that are anathema to who I am as a person. In all of this, she referred to me as evil for the sole sin of wanting to treat people as they wish to be treated. You know, the very foundation of what her alleged religion was. Which is to say that trans rights are human rights, and she was a complete transphobe. I left that encounter feeling utterly violated and destroyed. Adding insult to injury, if I could talk, that would be glorious. I was told I was no longer welcome. And you know what? I think now this was a blessing in disguise. You see, I had an epiphany later that night. I came to realize and fully understand that this half of my family has never once stood up for me when I needed them. When my life fell apart after my psychotic break, silence. When I was being evicted from my home, silence. when my apartment got flooded. Silence once again. And so I made the decision to sever all ties to them. Doubly so with some other revelations about myself that I'd been kicking around. We'll cycle back to that. I started even going as so far as to consider legally changing my name. And I did come to that conclusion, but before I fully reached it, something else happened that really accelerated that plan. It was the week of WrestleMania in 2025, and I'd been making plans to go and visit my sworn brother and watch it with him, which it'd be the first time that we've gotten to hang out and watch a wrestling pay-per-view in over a decade. But it was in the middle of the week, and I hadn't planned on leaving until later in the week when another very close friend of mine, I don't want to say he went crazy because that's just rude, but he started showing some very odd behavior. He showed up at my stepdad's in my home at 11 at night. Now bear in mind, I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but he showed signs of what I personally believe to have been significant manic behavior. And in the middle of this, he tried to not so subtly invite himself to stay with us. He was asked to leave. The next day, he attempted to propose to me over Facebook Messenger. Now, full disclosure, I'm very openly pansexual. But there was no attraction to him in that way. In fact, I looked at him like a younger brother. I turned him down, and he did not take such a revelation very well. My sworn brother gave me full permission to pack up and leave for his place early because I'm going to level with you. I was terrified. A few games of EDH later, I made up my mind to cut this person out of my life as well, blocked him on all my socials, and hoped that that would be the end of it. It was not the end of it. He started calling multiple places trying to get a hold of me, and it was so bad I had to get a protective order put in place, and thankfully that was granted. Somewhere along the way in all of this, some of my older struggles started to call back. Things that I didn't have words for back when I was first going through it. I started genuinely questioning my relationship with gender and how I looked, how I'd been addressed, my literal name. Nothing really felt right. Like I said, I had a lot of these questions when I was younger as well. But one, I didn't really have a word for it, for what I was feeling, nor did I really have time to pause and really ponder it in any larger capacity. I went as far in an attempt to get myself okay with the name I was originally given as to riff on my dead name repeatedly as former usernames in an attempt to get myself to be okay with it. None of that really helped. Eventually the levee broke, and I talked to someone I consider a close and personal friend, and what she said to me will live on in my life for the rest of it, and it is one of my favorite quotes I have ever heard. You sound like you haven't realized yet that you are as binary as a 7. You ever have that moment of clarity where just suddenly everything around you acutely makes sense? That was my moment. I finally came to understand what these emotions and these feelings about myself were. And I wish that I had known what the term non binary was far sooner than what I did. While all of this is going on, fueled by both this revelation and my hatred of my dead name, plus the stalking, I followed through with that legal name change. And I also made the decision to rebrand this channel. It's gone through a number of changes, starting with deleting all of my videos, especially that race I did with the person who did all of this to me. And eventually, I sat here and I pondered and I puzzled and I looked through all the different things that I could do. And I settled on the sinister Alistair. After all, if my former family wants to decry me as evil for the alleged sin of choosing kindness, by their logic, I'm going to be the greatest villain that they will ever know. Also, since they want to push this Christian nationalism bullshit down my throat, I picked a name that they would absolutely fear. Aleister Crowley is such a fascinating person to study. Anywho, as I'm processing all of this, I had applied for an apartment in another state because I was scared of how things had gone. I was at the time still just constantly looking over my shoulder, crying myself to sleep from all matter of horrible stuff. Both the stalking, my stepdad's backslide with his health, and I did eventually have to break the news to him that I was considering leaving, and he did give me his blessings to leave. I hate it. I hate that it came to it, but I had to do what I had to do. That move didn't happen very fast either. It felt just absolutely agonizing, waiting on it day after day, just in fear of what could possibly happen. It was getting to a point I didn't even recognize the person that I was because I was just so constantly terrified. But in December of last year, I finally got that call. And with the help of some wonderful, wonderful people in my life, I was able to get over here and sign the paperwork and prepare a day to move. I didn't actually get to move in until the 7th of February. And I wanted so much to start streaming again right away. It took me about 3 weeks to finally get internet, and in the process of all of that, I had to establish all of my mental health services, all of my therapy, all of my doctors, all the things you kind of take for granted when it comes to moving, especially when you're moving between states. But additionally, I went through with taking one more stab at something that I have been fighting for a decade and a half plus, and that was taking back control of my finances. Back in, I want to say 2009, I think it was. My former mental health group declared me financially incompetent. It took me over a decade and a half of fighting to remove that. Now, I am very, very disabled. Schizophrenia is not something that I would wish on anyone. But that group took full advantage of me. I'm not going to name them because I don't want anyone involved getting dogpiled. That's not who I am. But I digress. Victory after victory after victory of taking back my life and rebuilding myself from the ground up. It has barely been 5 months, and I've made so much progress with myself. And just as I'm starting to finally get myself to where I want to be, emergency fucking surgery. I don't want to go into details because this one is embarrassing and brutal and it was no bueno, my dudes. But I picked myself up. I followed through with everything. I'm now back to 100%. And I made the decision on a whim that due to my current self-image problems and some things better left in the past, that I made the decision that if I'm coming back to streaming, it's going to be with the help of this heckin' guy. Hello! You can call me Al, I guess. But, yeah. Consider this my attempt at starting Vtubing. Sorry that this looks like a really badly dubbed bit of animation, but I am still mastering all of the things that I have that go with this type of rig and the program that I am using. One of these nights I might even learn how to do this with a full update and a whole new rig. But for now, I'm here to bring you joy and softness in a world that seems harder than diamond. So don't forget to come back and see me sometime. I want to state this as the foundational basis of this channel. I may no longer be Morning Sun Gaming, but the ideals that brought me to that name have not wavered. My channel is a safe haven for the spurned and the weary. For all of us to come together and find solace, even if for a moment. Everyone is welcome, until you give me reason to revoke that welcome by, say, being a complete jerk or a creep. I don't even know what games I really intend to play going forward. I actually put out a poll on a couple of Discord servers I'm a part of to kind of help me decide. But no matter what I intend to play going forward, I want to continue to provide a sanctuary for people to get away from things. Now that said, I am but one person controlling an amp. And I am a person with a lot of things in this world that I consider hobbies. I am like a colossal nerd between tabletop RPGs, trading card games, games other than what I play on my channel, painting minis, writing goofy, self-indulgent fanfics that I will probably never publish, but will still be better than any AI slop out there, collecting anime and manga, and learning to cook new things. YouTube is just another hobby in my collection, and I will continue to do this as long as I am having fun. I don't want any money or any glory for any of this. In fact, if any money I would ask that you want to send my way, don't. Donate to somewhere that researches Parkinson's and a cure. That would make my day, knowing that people were doing this after everything that's happened. So here's to all of you, and to a brighter tomorrow together. So come back soon and sit in the shade. Shadow protect you, my friends. I'll see you all soon.